Have you ever felt like something was watching you from the dark? Unexplained noises, shadows slipping past your vision, or a pair of invisible eyes clinging to you. It could all just be your imagination. Or maybe it's the first sign of something horrifying about to happen. In today's video, you'll hear 3 completely true experiences that left the storytellers unable to ever look at a basement, a curtained room, or a ground-level window the same way again. Make sure you're somewhere safe, dim the lights, and get ready to face what lurks in the dark. Story 1. Something in the basement. I grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood where days just revolved around school, gaming, and repeating the cycle. Our basement was the place I hung out most, not because I liked the cold or the dim light, but because it was quiet, and the only spot where I could play games all night without being bothered. It was an old basement with rough brick walls and a single flickering yellow light hanging from the ceiling like it was about to burn out. But to me, it was heaven. One winter night close to midnight, I was gaming as usual when some friends joined the voice chat. I turned on my webcam to stream on Discord, playing and chatting at the same time. Everything was fine, until one of my friends typed in the chat, "Dude, who's standing behind you?" I laughed. "No one's here but me. You're seeing things." Then the second message came in. "No, seriously. Someone in a gray robe was right behind you just now." I took a screenshot. I paused the game and turned around. Nothing. Just the empty basement and the steady hum of my computer fan. But something felt off, like the air itself had shifted, like something unseen had just passed by. Then my friend sent the screenshot. I zoomed in, and there in the grainy frame of my webcam right behind me, just next to my chair, was a tall figure in a gray cloak, face shrouded in darkness, standing perfectly still, as if staring straight at the back of my neck. I jumped up, heart racing. My chair squeaked as I tripped over it. I screamed for my mom, but the lights were off upstairs. Everyone was asleep. I bolted up the stairs, step after step, and just as I reached the door leading into the living room, the basement light flickered violently, then went out. In the final flash of light, I swear I saw a shadow pass across the basement, fast and cold, like a wind that slices through your spine. Panicked, I slammed the basement door shut and locked it. I didn't sleep that night, and the next morning I couldn't bring myself to go back down. A few days later, my mom decided to clean out some old boxes in the corner of the basement. She asked me to help. I hesitated but couldn't say no. As we lifted an old wooden chest, she suddenly froze. "Wait, this jacket, this was your dad's." I turned around. It was a thick, faded gray coat, dusty and worn, exactly like the one in the photo. But something didn't feel right. "I thought Grandpa passed away," I asked. She nodded. "Yeah, he died 10 years ago. But how did this get down here?" I had no answer. But from that day on, every time I passed the basement door, I felt something watching me. Not loud, not obvious, but steady, like a faint breath brushing the back of my neck. And sometimes when the house is dark, I swear I still hear soft footsteps below in the basement. No one else in the house hears them. Only me. Story 2. The Faceless Mannequin. Last Lunar New Year, my family gathered at my aunt's house in the suburbs to celebrate. It was a big, old-fashioned house with tall ceilings, long, dusty curtains, and wooden floors that creaked with every step. To the kids, though, it was just one giant playground. My little sister Lon, 8 years old at the time, was the youngest of the group. That afternoon, while the adults were busy cooking, the kids started playing hide-and-seek. A while later, they were still counting. But no one could find Lon. Everyone started to worry. About 10 minutes later, I found her curled up under the big dining table in the living room. Her face was pale, eyes wide, and unblinking arms wrapped around a pillow, and she was whispering things I couldn't understand. It took a while before she could say anything clearly. I was hiding behind the curtain in the storage room. I saw a mannequin without a face, but it was breathing. I thought she was just imagining things out of fear. But then she described it in detail: wrinkled bare feet, long curling fingernails, and the sound of wet, steady breathing coming from something behind the dusty curtain in that sealed-off room. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I decided to check the storage room myself. The door creaked and stuck as I opened it. The smell of mold hit me instantly. I shined a flashlight inside and saw a tall shape standing still behind a sheet of white fabric that draped all the way to the floor, just as Lon described. I stepped closer and lifted the cloth. A figure stood there, almost 2 meters tall, skin white as plaster. No face, just a smooth, blank surface. I raised my flashlight, and that's when it moved. Not much. Just a slight tilt of the head, subtle, almost imperceptible. But I saw it, and I froze. A soft footstep echoed behind me. I spun around. Nothing. When I looked back, the mannequin had shifted. Its arm was extended as if it were reaching out to me. I ran, dropped the flashlight, and as it tumbled across the floor, its beam caught one last image. The figure wasn't standing on the ground. It was hovering, a few inches off the floor. The next day, the room was locked. My mom said it had been sealed for years. No one had a key. When I told them what happened, no one believed me. But Lon remembered. Some nights she'd wake up mumbling in her sleep, whispering, "He has no face, but he still sees me." Story 3. The face behind the basement window. A few years ago, my family rented a small wooden cabin in the mountains for a winter vacation. The place sat isolated in a pine forest with almost no neighbors nearby. The silence was too much, too still for comfort. I chose the basement as my temporary room because it had a desk outlets and was away from family noise. There was a small window at ground level looking out over the snow-covered yard. On the second night around 1 a.m., I was scrolling through my phone when I felt something. A pressure like a freezing stare pressed against my spine. I looked up from my screen and froze. Outside the tiny window, standing in the snow, was a man. He wore a long black cloak. I couldn't see his face, it was swallowed by the shadows. But the moonlight was enough to show that he had his forehead pressed to the glass hands on either side of the frame, trying to look inside. I backed away slowly. Didn't scream. He didn't move. Didn't react. He just stared. I turned off the light, hiding behind the bed. A few minutes later, I finally built the courage to peek out with a flashlight. He was gone. The next morning, I told my parents. They said I probably dreamed it. But outside in the deep snow, there were footprints leading from the forest to the basement window. And then they stopped. No prints going back. We set up a temporary security camera. But when we checked the footage the next day, the recording had cut out at exactly 3:12 a.m. The following night, I didn't sleep. And at the exact same time, I heard it. A knock. Slow. Steady. Right on the basement glass. I didn't turn on the light. I didn't move. Because I realized it wasn't a knock. It was fingernails. Scraping slowly across the window pane, one beat at a time. I never slept in the basement again. Would you dare go into your basement at 3 a.m.? Tonight's stories may be over, but the dark never truly leaves. It's still there, waiting in empty rooms behind unlocked windows, or just behind a harmless curtain you never thought twice about. If you've ever experienced something strange, or gone through something you couldn't explain, share it in the comments below. There are many more stories waiting behind this screen. See you again in the next sleepless night.